Hi, I'm Ilene Graff, and I am the next guest On Screen and Beyond.
On Screen and Beyond, an inside look into the entertainment world featuring interviews with people from the movie, TV, and music industry, news on upcoming TV and DVD releases, and the rumor mill. And now, here's the host of On Screen and Beyond, Brian Zemrak.
And it's time once again for another edition of On Screen and Beyond. I'm your host, Brian Zemrak, and this is the show that keeps you updated on what's coming your way as far as upcoming new movies, remakes, sequels, and TV and movie DVD releases, as well as our interview segment with a guest from the movie, TV, or music industry. This week on Screen and Beyond, we look back at the 80s hit TV show Mr. Belvedere with Ilene Graff, who played Marsha Owens on the show. Now, Ilene appeared in many other shows over the years, and she is coming up in a few minutes right here on Screen and Beyond. So get ready for that. I hope you've been looking through our past catalog, reruns of our past episodes of On Screen and Beyond, telling your friends, and, just so they can enjoy all the people we've had here and seeing your favorite celebrities talk about their careers. Now, you can subscribe to whatever podcast platform you're on, whether it's Apple Podcasts or Amazon, Spotify, Alexa, Podbean, all of them. And on Spotify, you can get the audio, of course, like all the others, plus a video version of it. Or you can go on YouTube and look at it at our YouTube page. So a lot of places you can check it out. And be sure to check us out and follow us on Instagram and Facebook so you can keep up with what's coming your way. If you have any suggestions, I love hearing your suggestions because sometimes I don't think about the people that you're thinking about. So if you send me a suggestion, I'll see what I can do about getting that person on. And Ilene Graff coming up in a few minutes right here on Screen and Beyond. But first, it's time for remakes, sequels, and prequels on Screen and Beyond.
Please hang up and try again.
Remakes, sequels, and prequels. James Purefoy and Charlotte Riley have joined the cast of the live-action Masters of the Universe film. So we'll see what happens with that. They've been talking about that for so long. And Universal is developing a reboot of The Exorcist. And the story of DC Comics' Clayface will head to the big screen as they shoot for a September 11th, 2026 release. And Robert Pattinson says The Batman 2 should begin filming at the end of 2025. And the script for Terrifier 4 is in the works. They're just not going to stop on that one. And that's it for remakes, sequels, and prequels. Coming up next on Screen and Beyond, upcoming new movies. Upcoming new movies. Looks like Brad Pitt and Harvey Bardem will star in F1 on June 27th as a former F1 driver returns to the track after he had crashed and injured himself. Kate Winslet will make her directorial debut with the film Goodbye June for Netflix. The cast includes Toni Collette and Helen Mirren. And Kiefer Sutherland and Rebel Wilson will star in Tinseltown as a Hollywood action film star's franchise is canceled. And he takes a look at his career. It's floundering, and he heads to England to become a serious actor, only to end up in a small town performing a play of Cinderella. And that's it for upcoming new movies. Next on Screen and Beyond, it's movies and TV on DVD and streaming. Movies and TV on DVD and streaming, A Complete Unknown, telling the story of legend Bob Dylan, arrives on 4K Ultra HD Steelbook and Blu-ray on April 11th. Renfield with Nicolas Cage bites into 4K Steelbook and Blu-ray on April 11th also. And the 1959 classic Some Like It Hot with Marilyn Monroe, Jack Lemmon, and Tony Curtis gets a 4K and Blu-ray release on April 8th. Classic movie lovers, you're going to like this one. In 1949, The Sands of Iwo Jima is now coming to 4K and Blu-ray on April 15th. And 1978's Foul Play with Chevy Chase and Goldie Hawn sneaks on to 4K and Blu-ray on April 22nd. And that's it for movies and TV on DVD and streaming. Coming up next on Screen and Beyond, it's TV and entertainment time. TV and entertainment time. Well, Dying for Sex, starring Michelle Williams and Jenny Slate, lands on Hulu April 4th as a woman diagnosed with breast cancer decides to explore her sexuality. And a prequel series to Legally Blonde for Prime Video is in the works with Lexi Mindtree as Elle Woods. And it looks like Hulu is working on a sequel series to The Handmaid's Tale called The Testament. And the original, it's heading toward an end. And that's it for TV and entertainment time. Coming up next on Screen and Beyond, Ilene Graff of Mr. Belvedere, right here on Screen and Beyond.
Hi, this is Butch Patrick. You might know me better as Eddie Munster, and I'm on Screen and Beyond.
Our guest today on Screen and Beyond has been nominated for a Grammy. She has appeared on Broadway. She was in the TV special South Pacific, has had appearances on Barnaby Jones, Mork and Mindy, Supertrain, Lewis and Clark, and most recently on Heart of Dixie and so many others. But she is most remembered for her role on Mr. Belvedere as Marsha Owens alongside Bob Uecker. It's Ilene Graff. Ilene, welcome to On Screen and Beyond.
Thank you so much, Brian. It's great to be with you.
And 40 years. Does it seem like 40 years since you were on, that show?
Is it 40 years already? Oh my gosh. I lose track of time. No, it doesn't seem that long. And one of the great things about being on a show like that is even though it was 5.5 years of our life, it had such an outsized influence on life. So to me, 40 years ago, in some ways is like yesterday. But in most ways, it's like a lifetime ago.
And, you say 5 years. 5 years back then, as far as how many episodes are in a TV show, was a lot more than what 5 years would be now on TV.
Well, yes, in many ways. It was common for shows to run that long and be considered a hit. We needed to do 100 episodes in order to get into syndication. And that was everybody's goal that was doing one of these kinds of shows. Once you get into syndication, then the bosses make a lot more money. We don't, but they do. And nowadays, there are very few shows. I don't know about network shows that do 22 episodes a year. I don't know about network if that's still common. But I watch my streaming shows and a long season is 10 episodes.
Exactly.
So it's very different.
Yeah. I mean, you guys were really working your butts off. I mean, you're doing that many episodes.
Yeah, but it didn't feel like work. I mean, we weren't installing tile or laying concrete or anything. Our job was to be funny and to tell stories. And that's what a privilege to be able to do that. I mean, I would go into work every day knowing that I was going to be laughing for a great portion of the day. Is that hard work? Yeah, it is. But the payoff is that you get to be with people you're really crazy about and everybody makes you laugh. So if that's hard work, I vote yes.
Now, was the set a happy set? Was everybody getting along and everything? And just, it sounds it from what you said, but.
Yeah, it was a very happy set. Our two male leads, Christopher Hewitt, who played Mr. Belvedere, and Bob Uecker, who played my husband, George Owens, made it their business that our set was a democracy. No one on our show was any more important than anybody else. Everybody was treated with the same kind of respect. And I think when cast and crew have that feeling, that really contributes to a cooperative effort and great affection and respect. And that makes for a happy set.
How did you get the role?
I auditioned.
Was it back then? Was it just a big open call that people could come
Oh,
in
no,
and?
no, no. TV shows usually don't have open calls. That's a theater thing.
Ah,
So, have an agent. Agent submits you for a job. You get a script. You read the script. You decide whether you want to go in and audition at all. Uh, and then they make an appointment for you. I had one audition for the producers, the executive producers, writers of the show. I had a call back for them. And then we went to what's called network auditions, where you go and audition in front of the suits, the executives the network executives who kind of have a pretty big say into as to who's getting what. But the audition process was not horrible, which was great. When you sort of feel that you're the right person for the job, you come in with a certain confidence to let the people who are going to hire you know that if you hire me, everything's going to be fine. You try to give off that aura.
mhm.
And at the final audition, Bob and I just hit it off right away. There was great chemistry between us. I got his sense of humor, he got my sense of humor. And it wasn't too long afterwards. I don't remember, as you say, it was a long time ago. I got the job. And I found that in my career, the jobs that were the easiest to get were the ones that were the most satisfying and the most pleasant and the easiest in a way, because you walk in and tick off the boxes and they say, okay, her. And now they don't have to think about that role anymore.
Now, what was it like? What was Christopher Hewitt like as far as being on set or as a person?
Christopher was a great guy. I knew him before the show. He had directed me in a musical in New York
Ah,
a few years before that. So we knew each other pretty well going into it. And when I saw him at those final auditions, we sort of said, we have to get this. We have to get this. We have to be together, because we knew we worked really well together. And
wow.
we had great affection for each other even before, for years before that. He was well educated. He was a master of the stage. He brought his Englishness, well, I don't know how else to call it, he's a very proper guy. He brought that to work. We had certain rules. Nobody was allowed to chew gum on the set, some things that he just wouldn't go for. But such a wonderful actor and such a wonderful acting partner, a warm guy. He also had a little bit of an edge when things weren't going exactly the way he wanted them to, and he was not easy to, but Euchre was always able to rile him up if he felt that it would be funny. Uh, but I loved Christopher very much, and I'm so glad that I had the opportunity to work with him for all those years.
Hmm. Now, what about Bob? From the image that we got as viewers of TV shows that he was on, and of course, his years in sports and everything, he just seemed to be a jokester. I mean, that's just the impression we got. So, how was it actually?
He was a jokester. He loved uh, playing practical jokes. He liked playing practical jokes on Christopher, especially. But he had a very serious side to him as well. He read like three newspapers every day. He knew everything that was going on in the world, politically, what was going on just internationally. He knew what was going on in the stock market. He just knew a lot because he read the paper. I mean, not just one, but his table was always covered with newspapers. And but he loved to have a good time, and he made everything fun on set. Uh, he was a straight shooter, absolute straight shooter. Um, and extraordinarily trustworthy. I trusted him completely with whatever work we were doing, or even outside of work as friends. He was, like I said before, extremely respectful. But he just loved to laugh, and he loved to make us laugh, and he was really very good at it.
So I take it that offset that we never saw that, he was causing people to laugh again.
Yes. Yes, he had a phenomenal relationship with the kids. Rob Stone was the eldest, who played Kevin. Tracy Wells, who's now Tracy Tofty, played Heather, and Bryce Beckham played Wesley. And the three of them and Bob were so tight, and he just loved being with them. He provided such a sense of security, and he was really the dad. He was really the dad on our set. Um, they just had a very special thing. And, the kids and I are still close to this day, even all these years later. And in fact, we are going to Milwaukee at the beginning of April for the big memorial that's happening for Bob in Milwaukee. We're there representing his Mr. Belvedere years, and I'm really glad that we're going to be able to do that.
Wow, that's great. Now, do you have a favorite episode or memory of the show?
Well, selfishly enough, my favorite episodes were the ones where I got to sing. Uh, you come from Broadway and they know it, and they know you've got certain talents. And they usually, when you're on a long running show, they like to play up to your talents after they really get to know you and what you do. So we had, I think, maybe 3 or 4 episodes where I sang. And the one that I just thought was one of my absolute favorites was when Robert Goulet was our special guest. You might remember him. He was a very popular singer in the
Oh, yeah.
60s and 70s. And Bob, the plot was that Bob had a dream that he quit his job to become a lounge singer. You can do that on family comedies.
Hmm.
And so he goes to sing in a lounge in Beaver Falls, which is where the show took place. And there was a band on stage, and my husband was the piano player, and he was in charge of the music. And I got to sing with Robert Goulet, a duet
Wow.
with Robert Goulet. It was so much fun. So that's one of my favorites. But I also loved what they call the very special episodes, where we got to talk about some serious issues. And I think they were valuable. And we always felt kind of proud that we were part of bringing attention to certain issues in terms of what kids go through.
Yeah. And it's seeing comedies, sitcoms do something like that. MASH did that quite a bit too, and
Mm.
some other shows.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, it takes you away from the comedy, but it keeps some of the comedy in, but it brings out that seriousness it really helps things. Like, you did
Yeah.
episodes on HIV and things
Yep.
like that.
Yeah,
So
we did one of the very first episodes on HIV AIDS. That one, I forget what kind of prize it won now. I should look that up. Uh, and we felt so good that we were able to, at way before a lot of other shows were doing it, to bring especially that issue to the fore in a completely non-judgmental way. This is just something we have to be aware of, and we can't victim shame, and we have to still stand with our friends and all of that. And yeah, and a lot of shows, the family comedies, the sitcoms, did take advantage of the fact that we had a big audience of millions of people, that we could gently talk about
yes.
issues that were very important.
Yeah, I think it worked well the way they did. Like you say, they didn't pound you on the head with it
Right,
and
right.
drive it into you. It was there. It
Mm,
was life, and
right.
it worked out.
Yeah, and we always tried to play it real. We didn't make light of it. We didn't make we just it was like, how would a parent really talk to a child about something? And I think that resonated.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Albert Hammond, and I'm On Screen and Beyond.
Now you mentioned Broadway. Was Broadway your first love? Is that what
Yes.
you really wanted to do?
Yes. Yeah. There's nothing like being in a Broadway show. To this day, there's nothing like the thrill of being on a stage in the theater district in New York. It's just, I mean, for a lot of people, it's the pinnacle. I mean, for people that want to do theater, if you want to be a movie star, I don't know how much you care about being in a Broadway show, although a lot of movie stars lately are going
Now
into
do.
Broadway shows, which I
Exactly.
think is really good for them, to step into an area that maybe they had training and maybe they went to school for theater, maybe they started out in theater, but to want to come back and do it again, to test their chops and to see if they can do it and do the schedule and do all the work. I think it's really cool. But for like I was right out of college when I did my first Broadway show, and I look back now and I say, I can't believe I did that at that age. And I'm glad I did it then because the training that you get from being in a Broadway show is like no other.
And I don't know how you do it because remembering, I mean, you got to remember your lines. If you're taping a sitcom, you can goof a line and okay, we do it over and it never is seen, editing, which is very important to me, believe me. And as you know,
Yeah.
but editing is a big thing on TV, but on stage, what do you
Well, you
got?
learn little tricks to cover up when you mess up, I'll tell you that. You do, sometimes you say to your scene partner, what was it I was saying? Or, and if they're any good, they'll be able to sort of get you back on track. But yeah, you learn your stuff and you rehearse and then you do the show. And sometimes you do go up and make a mistake, but you can always fix it. And once those words are ingrained in you and you've practiced enough and you've rehearsed enough and you've done the show enough, you kind of know what it is. But I had, during one performance of Grease, I played Sandy Dombrowski in the original Broadway company of Grease. And sometimes, no matter what, you just have no idea what the next line is. And we were doing Summer Nights, and I'm skipping around the stage singing Summer Nights, and all of a sudden I have no idea what the
Oh boy.
next lyric is. Not a clue. So I had my mic to my face and I just started mouthing words because I couldn't remember what it was. And then when I came back in to what I wanted to do was make the audience think that the mic went out.
It's somebody else's fault, right?
And after the show, I went back to the sound booth and I said, I'm so sorry. You did nothing wrong. I forgot my words, so I just pretended that the mic went out. And they said, we were going crazy trying to figure out what was going wrong.
Wow, I can imagine they must have been, oh no.
Yeah, but stuff like that. It happens. It
Yeah.
happens.
Wow, that's no, but being with the audience and getting that immediate feedback, did they get the joke?
Right.
Did they enjoy the song? That must be totally different than being in a movie or a TV show.
100%, 100% different. From like your first entrance, whether they're with you or not. And the feedback is so important to the show. I mean, you do your show, whether it's a great audience or maybe an audience that is in the middle of flu season and they're sneezing and coughing throughout, which happens in the winter. Sometimes we felt like we were in a hospital. There was so much sneezing, coughing,
Oh,
and carrying on during the winter. But you do your show. You do as best as you can, whether you're getting your laughs the way you like to, or you don't get your laughs the way you like to. Your job is to be a professional and deliver. But when you have those magic audiences that are with you from the get-go, it's exhilarating. You say, they get it. We're all having fun. This is fantastic. So yeah, the audience is extremely important.
is that like a shot of adrenaline?
A shot of adrenaline, indeed, indeed. And sometimes when you have a great audience, you have to hold back because the tendency is to get bigger and crazier and wilder because you're having so much fun. That doesn't help the show. It really doesn't. The show has to be performed as the show, as we were often, especially in Greece, where, it's a little bit it's anarchy, essentially, a bunch of teenagers carrying on stage. And whenever we would get too big or carrying on too much, there would be the company meeting where the stage manager would say, I know you're having fun, cool it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now you also were in Ladybugs with Rodney Dangerfield. What
Mhm.
I cannot imagine what you went through, or maybe he's totally different, but I would think being with Rodney Dangerfield behind the scenes, even on screen, but behind the scenes must have been a laugh riot for you.
Well, Rodney, like many comedians, was kind of a, a he was kind of quiet, and he wasn't like a laugh riot on set between
Mhm.
setups, and he, however, was one of the fastest thinkers, writers I've ever seen in action. They would come to him, they're shooting a scene and it wasn't, if something was right, the jokes weren't punchy enough or whatever. And they'd come over to Rodney and say, uh, you got anything that might help that scene? And he could come up with like 3, 4 jokes just off the top of his head that I'd never heard before that they could use in the scene and like just pick what they liked the best. And I saw that more than once, and whoa, I said, who does that? Who does that? And I just gained so much respect for his craftsmanship and his talent and his ability to write a cohesive joke in seconds. So he was really something. And he was good to me. In terms of if we were sitting around in between and the setup was taking longer than we thought, and we're just sitting doing nothing. And I would say to him, tell me about when you sold storm windows, or, because that was his profession. That's what he did before he went into comedy. He was a
Hmm.
salesman
Yeah.
selling storm windows. And he would always tell me stories about, and I wouldn't ask him like, what's it like to be Rodney Dangerfield? That I didn't care about that. I wanted to know who he was as a person. And he would, he would always share with me, and I appreciated that.
Hmm. Wow. Yeah, and you mentioned how he could come up with things in the middle of coming up like that with jokes and things like that. I had the opportunity to work with Dom DeLuise one time, and
Really?
he was the same way. He would just, you know, here was the script. He'd follow the script, but then he'd add his other stuff, and
Oh,
it was like, then he'd add. I was directing his voiceover for it, and he'd ask me,
oh,
how was that? And I'm thinking, Dom DeLuise is asking me how this is.
well, you're still the boss. He's the employee, that
I
means he's a
mean,
good employee.
yeah, yeah, but it's like you say, it's funny how some people just have that knack just to be able to come up with things
Yeah.
out of nowhere, and
Yeah.
it's a true
Talking about,
talent.
I did 3 episodes of Mork and Mindy with Robin
Oh,
Williams and 2 with Jonathan Winters. He was on 2 of the episodes of Mork and Mindy that I did. Now you want to talk about guys coming up with comedy and jokes and riffs, your head just started spinning because of the genius that you're witnessing. It was incredible. And the 2 of them just, and I'm not talking necessarily when you're shooting, but as you said before, backstage kind of, they would just ping pong off of each other.
wow.
And you felt like you were watching a show that you would have to pay $500 a ticket for, and you're just
Right.
sitting around the table eating candy and waiting for them to call you.
Yeah.
What a privilege that was. It was
Wow.
remarkable. And Robin, had so much energy and so much creativity and just could bounce around making stuff up and improvising. But when the director would actually say, okay, Robin, this is real, boy, he was a Juilliard actor. He trained, he cut out everything that they told him to cut out, and he was right there with you
Hmm.
every second of the way. I had so much respect for him and affection. He was really so special.
And you mentioned him and Jonathan Winters. I mean, two legends. And like you say, the two of them together, it must have been You mentioned back when when the adrenaline kicks in on stage, you start going up and getting wilder and wilder. I can imagine the two of them must have.
In rehearsal, it was nuts. It was absolutely nuts. Because almost all of the material that they came up with was good. Not all of it, nobody's perfect, but a lot of the stuff and some stuff made it into the script for sure.
Yeah.
But on tape night, on film night, that show was on film. On film night, professional.
And
Totally
I can imagine some of the things they came up they couldn't put on TV.
perhaps.
But I mean, it must have been so much fun to just
It was.
watch that type of thing. It's
Yeah,
just
it was.
incredible. And
I'm
when
so
you,
glad I had those experiences.
yeah, yeah. Now, when you were growing up, just a little tight, uh, were you, leading into being an actress? Is that what you were, or did you want to do something else?
Well, I grew up in a show business family.
Right. Yes. Your father
So that
was
sort of
Pied
skews
Pipers.
yeah, my dad was a singer, a musician, music director. He did a lot of different things, had a very, very nice career. So to me, that whole world was normal. Dad would go into the city and sing a jingle and come home. Or we lived with him in Las Vegas for a couple of years, and he would go to work at night and sometimes take me with him to the Sands Hotel to see all the big stars. So that world was a world that I knew and was familiar with. I sort of, in junior high, maybe I wasn't envisioning a career for myself, but as I got along further, like in high school, it became clear that I was not an academic genius. I did well in school, but I didn't have the stuff to be a doctor or a lawyer. It didn't interest me to be in school forever. And I could always sing. And as my senior year of high school, I did my first musical, and I said, I get this. I think I could do this. This is nice. And so then I went ahead to college and was a theater major, but sang all the way through. I sang jingles for my dad when I was a teenager, and I just always sang. And
Hmm.
it just became kind of the thing. And I was so lucky to get a Broadway show, like I said, right out of college, and that sort of just led to other things.
So there was no way you were going to be a secretary or something like that.
No, I had one summer job in when I was in college back in I was from New York City. I went to college upstate New York, and one summer my vocal cords were a little wonky, and my doctor said no summer stock. No, so I got a job in an office, and I was on the phone all day, and I was so miserable. I just be commuting on the subway every day into the city to work in an office. And I just have such respect for people that find a home doing that, because it's important work, but it just wasn't suited to me.
Mhm.
I, and I kept telling them in the office, well, this isn't what I'm going to do. I'm not, and they probably thought I was such a jerk.
Yeah. Well, luckily for us, the viewers of, whether it's Broadway or TV or movies, we were able to see you. So
Oh, that's so nice. Thank
you know,
you.
that worked out for all of us. You were
Yeah,
happy doing what you were doing, and we were enjoying what you were doing. So
that's very nice. Thank you.
I want to finish up with one final question. Taking us away from everything that you've been doing and over the years and everything, but when you sit back and relax, what are your favorite TV shows now and of the past? And what's your favorite movies now and of the past? What do you enjoy?
Oh, um, I'm a BritBox watcher. So you give me a British detective in a procedural and I'm happy. I love Vera and Miss Marple and Poirot and Inspector Lynley. Those are the shows that I really gravitate towards. I like I love the actors. I think the actors are so good. In my favorite shows of the past, I used to love TV variety shows, the Andy Williams show and shows like that. I used to love Law and Order back at the beginning, and um, Movies, let's see. This year, the movie I liked the best was Conclave. I thought it was really, really good. Um, and again, oh, Wicked. I finally saw Wicked. What a tour de force. I just loved it. And I love the show also. And I think it was one of the best stage to screen translations ever. I just loved it.
Were you one
And
of the people that was singing in the audience during the film?
absolutely not. My brother is a member of the Motion Picture Academy, so he took me to a screening at the Motion Picture Academy Theater, and that audience is serious. I mean, they are there to see the movie and decide if it's going to win an Oscar. So, no, there was no singing along in that crowd.
It's funny how a movie can do that to some people, that they want to sing along with it. And how in the world they know all the words, I don't know, but
Well, come on. I know every word to West Side Story, every note, every word.
yeah.
Uh, I can see very easily wanting to go to a sing-along of Wicked. I
Yeah.
think that would be a lot of fun.
Now, I wanted to mention, was South Pacific, the movie, one of your favorite movies? Because you had a chance to be in South Pacific. How was that?
Oh my God. It was a thrill of a lifetime to make that movie. It was an ABC movie of the week, I guess they called them,
Yeah,
with Glenn Close, me acting with Glenn Close. Give me a break. And Harry Connick
Eric
Jr.
Connick, yes.
were my colleagues. It was, and as wonderful and regular plain people as you could imagine. It was a gigantic production. It was first class all the way. Made some really good friends, Australian friends that I'm still with on Facebook. And the music is so glorious. It just is the perfect match of music to play. They wrote the songs to help create the feeling of that South Pacific and the characters. And just listening to it was, oh, just pure heaven.
Now, like I said, were you a fan of the original, the movie with I can't remember
I
who was
was
it.
Mitzi
Mitzi
Gaynor, who
Gaynor, that's right.
I got to know, and we
I
were,
think Ray Walston. That's the one who
yeah,
comes to
Ray
mind
Walston for
because he was in
sure.
it.
Absolutely. It was a beautiful movie. And yet when I watched it before going to Australia to make the movie, and they had this concept that every scene was washed in color. So you never got, like, we're looking at each other, you look like a regular guy, I look like a person. Everything like either had a blue tint to it or a green tint to it. And I didn't remember that from the original. And I found it jarring. I wanted to see Mitzi looking like Mitzi, not covered in a filter of some sort.
Mhm.
But you can't quarrel with the score of that movie and the energy and the I'm a huge Rodgers and Hammerstein fan. I mean, talk about tackling serious subjects in the middle of frothy musical comedy. Nobody did it like they did.
Mm.
And uh, I think it's a great piece, no matter how it was done.
Yeah. Well, Eileen, I cannot thank you enough for taking the time to share with us. It was a pleasure having you on, and I thank you so much.
You are so welcome. I really enjoyed our chat.
And a big thank you going out to Ilene Graff for sharing her story with us. And be sure to check her out on reruns of Mr. Belvedere and more. And you can subscribe to On Screen and Beyond on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. And be sure to tell a friend because, they might enjoy some of these people we've had. Hear some of their favorite TV, movie, and music stars as they share their stories and projects with us each week right here On Screen and Beyond. And that's it. That's a wrap for this episode of On Screen and Beyond. So until next time, when we once again take you on screen and beyond, I'm Brian Zemrak. Take care.